Free motion sewing is all about dropping those feed dogs on your sewing machine and no rules apply. You can sew front, back, side to side, and it's usually used in quilts where you make multiple layers come together and create texture. But you can also use it for apparel. It's so much fun and experimental. We are joined today with guest Jenny Lyon, who gives us all of her expertise on free motion. Let's get started.
Hi, I'm Amanda Carestio.
I'm Kate Zynard.
And I'm Meg Healy.
We are the hosts of the Sew and Tell podcast, and we are very excited to start a new series for you called Stitch Lab. In each episode, we are going to cover essential techniques and present inspiring experiments.
I need to put my safety glasses on for this experiment.
Aha.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
That was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Wow.
Welcome to Stitch Lab.
I'm so excited to welcome Jenny Lyon today to help us with this episode. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Meg. I'm excited to be here.
I would love to also hear about your sewing journey, a little bit of backstory, specifically your experience with free motion sewing.
I come from a long line of quilt makers. There's been I'm the fourth generation of quilt maker.
Wow.
But specifically, I didn't really learn that much about quilting from my mother. What happened is it was kind of a coincidence. I took a class at a local quilt shop, and that just unleashed this desire to quilt. So my first attempts were a little amusing. Here's my first quilt. It looks cute because I, used a very classic color combination. Flip it over to the back, and you'll notice that light colored stitching on the back. Funny thing is, that is not my bobbin thread. That is my top thread. My tension was so bad that it was pulling my top thread to the back. It was so horrible. You could literally see it across the room. So that's where I started free motion quilting.
Well, yeah, you always have to start somewhere. And look at you now. Did you quilt what's behind you right there?
Yes, I did. This is kind of the epicenter of what I do.
That's
I
fabulous.
primarily do what's called whole cloth. So this is only thread and fabric. I just really like that kind of quilting and design. So that's what started me free motion quilting. As I went on, I started branching out to different things. I had this question in my mind. What would happen if I was free motion quilting on a garment, say, where there's just 2 layers of fabric, no batting, because batting would make me look fat. We don't want batting in our garments, right? Okay.
No.
So what would happen if I free motion quilted and I cut out the negative space in between my stitching lines? Wouldn't that make it kind of lacy?
Lace. I was going to say.
This is my first garment that I did with this technique of cutwork.
Beautiful.
Because you're cutting all that fabric out, it gives it more drape also. You can see that I don't exactly hit my stitching line.
Yeah.
And so it's a very forgiving technique. You don't have to be all perfect and all buttoned up when you do this. I love the edges. The edges are they're all bumpy. I love that. I think that's fun. So that started me on this journey to doing cut work.
Yeah, amazing. When you think of free motion and just quilting, that would never be the first thing that would pop into my mind. But as a garment sewer, I look at that and it's creating fabric and lace, and it's amazing. And I want to do it.
Yeah. It is a lot of fun, and it's very forgiving. And if you choose the right fabric, it'll be very drapey and just look fabulous, worn.
I just have to ask you a question. So what is the one tip that you would say to get good at free motion for someone kind of starting out?
Oh, it's hard to have one, but I would say practice. And by practice, I mean combine play and practice.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, obviously I made that term up, but I call it practice because everybody says the standard answer for free motion quilting, how do I get good at free motion quilting? Practice. And so many of us go, like, oh my gosh.
Doesn't sound fun.
That may work for some. It's so much better if you practice. You find something that you like to do, a pre-printed panel of a design that you just love, quilt that up and you're good to go. So that would be my main tip. But if I can add one more, it would be, my motto is onward. So what I mean by that is I'm quilting a piece and parts of it are not that hot. Generally, I won't rip that out because I don't learn anything from ripping it out. If I go onward, I can fix whatever I did wrong on that one. I can fix that on the next one. And so my learning curve is going to be steeper because I'm always going onward. So those are my two biggest tips on how to get good at free motion quilting.
Oh, I love that. And what are the basic free motion patterns? So there's like set patterns, or you can just kind of free flow. Is there any kind of like templates that people can follow?
I don't know if there's a template, but there are so many different designs out there. It becomes a personal thing because you want to quilt your quilts and your projects with designs that you're comfortable with.
Right. I just do it, but I think I've tried it once before and it's just a bunch of squiggles. You know what? It doesn't look that bad.
No, it doesn't. And what we're going to do today is super easy. It really is. It's the daisy you drew in kindergarten. It really is. The petals don't have to be the same on each one. They don't have to be the same length. They don't have to be really anything specific other than you want space in between. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay, this is good to hear because I have never done this before. So it sounds like it's not nearly as terrifying as I think it is.
No problem, Kate. This will be fun.
All right, we're in the lab. We got our coats on. Let's set up our machine. So yeah, obviously I think we need to change the foot, right? Is this the type of foot that we are looking for, Jenny?
Yes, that is great. What you want is something where you have great visibility of your free motion quilting. That's perfect. Okay.
And I noticed this is called like a stippling and darning and free motion machine. So we can like do many things with this, like darning. What does that do for garment sewists?
Yes, you can darn with it. This whole trend with visible mending. So a lot of people are starting to do that now. So things like you got a hole in your jeans, you can visibly mend that and it looks kind of cool. So the same foot you can use to do any kind of work like that on any kind of a garment that you've got. So it's a really versatile foot.
And we set up the machine the same way as we're going to do now.
Yep, you sure do.
All right. So what's the first thing that we need to do?
First thing, I'd put your foot on. Next thing you're going to do is make sure your feed dogs are lowered because for free motion quilting, you don't want those feed dogs engaged.
Okay.
All right, feed dogs are down. What comes next? Do we need to change our stitch type?
You're going to just go with a straight stitch.
Okay. And what about the length? Do we need to do anything with our stitch length?
Nope, you don't need to do anything with your stitch length because your feed dogs are down. Your stitch, whatever you set your machine with stitch length won't matter.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. All right, what else?
So you are good to go. I think we are ready to free motion quilt.
That wasn't very much at all.
I have been so intimidated by this process for so many years of sewing. This is so easy.
Why don't you talk us through getting started?
Okay, so the particular design that we're doing today just has two different motifs. It's a daisy and a bubble, and that's all we're going to do. And the main thing with this is a little different than what you would do with regular free motion quilting. We want to make sure that we have plenty of space in between our stitching lines so that the cut work shows. If it's too dense, you'll just see a blob and you won't see the design. So let's get started.
So do we start in the middle or at the edge of our fabric?
That's a good question, Meg. I would start in a corner, but you need to be able to have a place to put your hands. So I would come 3 fingers in from either side and start down there. Go ahead and bring your bobbin thread up. First thing you're going to do is you're just going to make a circle. Now that you've done your circle, go ahead and do some daisies. Put as many petals in as it takes.
do not look like flowers.
It's going to look a lot better than you think it is. And so on a real garment, we'll need to secure that line when we do our cut work. So you would go over those petals one more time. So that's your opportunity to kind of neaten up those edges a little bit.
This is definitely going to take some plastics. Plastic.
Practice?
I lost it. Yes, practice. Okay.
All right.
I've done all of my petals twice.
Wonderful. Now travel around the middle of the circle to get to the opposite side of your corner, and then travel out to the end of one of those petals and do another bubble.
And then we just keep doing bubbles?
No, so go ahead and do that bubble. Once you finish that bubble and gone around twice on that bubble, go ahead and do half a petal to go into the center of what will be the next daisy. Did that make sense?
Yes.
And now your brain will relax. Once you've got that circle in, your brain will relax. It's like, okay, now I know what to do.
And that's it.
It really is fun once you get this down and you're not.
Just terrified?
You know what helps a lot is chocolate or wine.
Chocolate or wine?
Perfect with this.
There you go. Yes.
Yes, that is definitely something to know.
Yes, your machine always runs better with a little bit of chocolate.
Should we see what we have so far?
Yeah, let's see what we have.
Here's mine.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Great. Oh, those are perfect. Really, those are perfect.
How about yours, Kate? Let's hold it up. Let's see it.
Okay.
You could definitely tell which one is my first one and which one is my second one. They're slowly getting better.
And you know what, Kate? That's a really important concept. I call that visible learning curve. And as a new quilter, you have to expect that, embrace that, and just accept it.
Awesome.
That looks great.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that was super helpful. I am going to get some wine and chocolate and practice more.
Me too.
Jenny, you really opened up my eyes to a whole new world of doing designs. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Was it fun for you trying out the freehand capabilities, Kate?
It really was. You know, I've been eyeing it as a possible technique for years and years now, and I've just never had the guts to try it. So it was really cool that this episode made me sit down and actually do it. And I definitely need a lot more practice, but it's doable, and that's really cool. How about you?
Yeah, this was the first time where I was following a pattern and actually drawing a shape to create something instead of just squiggling and swirling as I did in my Style Revive jacket. This was my very first time, but I can see this in so many other patterns. I didn't even think about cutting out the negative space. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And also bags could totally work if you were making a quilted bag, a tote.
Oh, yeah.
So all in all, I am now hesitant to put my machine back into regular sewing. I think I'm just gonna keep it and practice a little bit more. Well, as always, this was so much fun.
Yes, it was. And thank you everyone for joining us on Stitch Lab. I hope you learned as much as we did.
Bye.
Bye.